Okay. So firstly, can you see my screen okay? Okay. Let me start the presentation then. So this is all about critical literacy skills in a technological world. And what I'd like us to do is, and I will not be holding you accountable to the results of this quiz. So don't worry about that. You don't have to share anything more than just your overall response to this. And I'll put this quiz in the chat as well. But I want you to take this quick quiz because it's the kind of thing that you might want to share with your students. And let me click it open, and then I will put it in the chat for us. If you'd rather follow along that way, you can. And if you'd rather just take a look at the screen, you can also do that. Okay, chat. Okay, so there's a link to the quiz, and you can also see it on my screen. And this is the kind of thing that we could give to our students. It's created by a group at Stanford that we'll be learning more about in this session today. So I want you to just think about, you don't really need to answer it out loud, but I do want you to think about this first question. This is or is not an advertisement because, and the arrow's pointing to this first ad at the top that says, we know you've got a story. So just think about that one for a minute and think how you would answer that. Is it an ad or is it not an ad, and why? And then the second question, same thing. This is or is not an advertisement because, and it's pointing to the example with the almonds. And then our next question, this is not or is an advertisement because, and it's pointing to the document called The Real Reasons Women Don't Go Into Tech. Here's another question. I'll read this one. On March 11th, 2011, there was a large nuclear disaster at the Fukushima nuclear power plant in Japan. The image was posted in July 2015. And this is the picture. And the question that follows it that you won't have seen yet is this an authentic picture? And you've got some information to work with there. So would you consider this to be a strong or a reasonable? I guess the question really is this legit, this picture? And then finally, a tweet. This is our last question on the quiz. So here's the tweet. If you clicked on it, it would look down below. I'll show you the picture of what it opens up looking like. But these are the questions. Why might this tweet be a useful source about NRA members, National Rifle Association members? Opinions on background checks. List any sources you use to make your decision. And then the next question, why might this tweet not be a useful source? And list your thinking. So here's what it looks like. This is the tweet. And the question is basically trying to get a sense of whether or not it is kind of pro or oppositional to NRA members and how it could be used. So that's the quiz. Okay. I'm not going to ask really I'm not going to have you talk through your answers, but just anybody with a general impression of any of the questions on the quiz, and whether your teachers that you work with or students you work with or your colleagues, and even yourselves, how do you think you would do at this point on a quiz like this? Anybody with thoughts generally about the quiz?
My impression had most to do with like the payment. So the number one, it has like a coupon code and such. So I would consider that an ad. The other ones seem like news stories to me, number 2 and 3. I don't see anything about buying anything. The only thing number 3 does say sponsored content.
Yes, so keep that in mind because we will be coming back to that phrase in a little bit, and that is a key consideration for that one. And just so you know, this picture is not legit. It went around and got millions of views across the world, but it is not a legitimate picture. And we'll talk about how you can figure that out. And then the tweet, there's some information there that if you were to take this quiz again at the end of what we learned today, you would do, I think, better, and your students would. So you'll learn some things today, I hope, that helps you tease out whether or not something like a tweet is legitimate or not. Okay, let me get back into our presentation. Okay, so are you seeing the results page now? Okay, so this is a quiz that a group from Stanford put together. There's all kinds of information about it. If you wanted to use any of their resources, they have lots to share with classroom teachers that focuses on this idea of new literacy. So the results, 82% of middle schoolers couldn't explain how to distinguish the ads from the news. 40% of high schoolers thought the photo of the flowers was real news, and it wasn't in the end. And then half of college students didn't click on the link in the tweet in order to evaluate its reliability. And a third did not recognize that there was a potential for political bias. So all the results are here at the bottom. You can click here for research and read more about what they did and what they found. And then Classroom Tools is also here. And I know I said I would put the presentation, get it to you. I realize it's not online right now, but I will email it to you both as soon as we're done if you'd like it. Okay, so that is to frame our discussion. How do we help kids become more discerning about literacy in our evolving world? And there's a link here to a brief article that looks like this. I will put it in the chat as well. And it's a simple article that's very brief that gives you some things to think about, I think, in terms of what literacy looks like now. So it is called 3 New Literacies for Today's Classroom. And we're not going to read the whole thing, though we could because it is fairly brief. But the point of this article is that literacy is really evolving. And visual literacy is an aspect of literacy that we're going to focus on quite a bit today. It's really important. We are asked to discern visual cues thousands of times a day, and many of those visuals that we are asked to make sense of can be manipulating. So we need to help kids make sense of these kinds of resources. Also, media literacy is really important. That is a new kind of form of literacy. We are now reading primarily on screens. Students are more than they were or more than they are with traditional books and printed resources. So here's an example of the kind of things kids are seeing in the media. This picture went around a few years ago, and great picture, very much eye candy to grab people's attention, but is it real or not? And there are some ways to discern whether it is that we will talk about today. So the image was a fake, but kids maybe don't have the skills to figure out whether or not an image is real or not. So there are some ways we can help them that are highlighted here that are going to come out in the rest of this presentation this morning. And then this is a nice one too, cultural literacy, helping kids understand that they don't live in a cultural bubble, and National Geographic is behind this. They have a very, very, very much a worldview of culture, and they are all about helping everyone develop more of a sense of global awareness or cultural literacy. So it's a path, it's a new avenue in culture, in literacy, that probably many people haven't been thinking about in the past, but getting kids to see that they are part of a global cultural community with many, many different aspects of culture is good for them, because they're going to be working in a very multicultural, diverse world. And this idea of cultural literacy is important. So that article is, I think, helpful for giving us a sense of what literacy is, how it's changing. And there's lots of resources here with this link in terms of the webinar recording and the slides for kind of more on this topic. Okay, so now I actually am going to have you take the time to watch this video. I think it's about 12 minutes long, and it really helps. It helps remind me of how to fact check on the internet. And it's designed for students, for teachers and students. So you could certainly share this with students. And I'm going to play it. I'm also going to put the link in the chat in case you'd want to follow along or have this in the future. Are you seeing the video okay?
Thank you, Ed. We're reporters for this new thing called MediaWise.
No, we're not seeing it.
Okay, give me a second and I'll get it up. Let me add it to the chat first, just so you have it. I'm going to just stop share and start share again. That usually gets me where I need to be. All right, are you seeing this screen now with?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, so I'm going to play it here, and
yes.
Okay, so I'm going to play it here. Let's just quietly watch it and see what we think.
Real and what's not. And that's why basically we're trying to fact check the internet, which is no easy task. Even as professional journalists, we've been duped by fake news. So if you've ever fallen for misinformation, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Even some of your favorite YouTubers have shared something that wound up being fake. Don't believe us? Check this out.
Hi everyone, I'm Ingrid Nilsson and I've been making videos on YouTube for almost 10 years.
Hi, I'm John Green. I write books and make YouTube videos with my brother.
My name is Destin Sandlin. I have a YouTube channel called Smarter Every Day.
I'm Mitch.
And I'm Greg, and we are ASAP Science.
Hey, what's up? I'm Mark Watson, also known as Soldier Knows Best on YouTube, and I cannot wait to be a part of this campaign to help the young people out with digital media literacy.
I'm really looking forward to being a part of this program. It is no secret that teens are constantly inundated with digital information all the time.
There's so many people competing for eyeballs on the internet. The truth is not obvious.
I have retweeted fake news, and I continue to find it difficult to sort the quality of information in my social media feeds.
I reposted an article from a website that was not legit at all. I remember that moment when somebody left a comment under their post saying, you know, this is not real, right? And I remember saying, I know now.
The architecture of the social internet incentivizes the sharing of such information regardless of whether it's accurate. And so, like a lot of people online, I have at times ended up having my brain hacked, fearing stuff that doesn't exist and knowing things that aren't true.
I really believe that one of the most impactful things that we can give to this next generation is the ability to be properly equipped with a discerning eye.
A new curriculum that helps kids learn how to learn is essential.
I really believe that through online civic reasoning, we can learn better strategies for judging the reliability of the information that is inundating us all the time.
This is a project that I really believe in, and I'm so proud to be a part of it.
Let's get it started.
Ugh, I freaking love that video.
I know you do.
John Green is also doing a 10-part series on his YouTube channel Crash Course for MediaWise. That drops January 8th.
Okay, cool. So you guys definitely get the idea by now. MediaWise is all about teaching digital literacy. Our goal is to reach 1 million middle and high school students by 2020.
Google.org is funding the project with $3 million. And we've got some amazing partners. The Stanford History Education Group is creating classroom lessons with real-life skills to help you learn this stuff.
The local media association and the National Association for Media Literacy Education, two partners with extremely long names, are also helping us get our message out.
And lastly, the Poynter Institute, where we work, is leading the project. Our boss, Katie Byron, used to be the managing editor for news at Snapchat.
Hi, guys.
She's awesome. Did we forget anything?
Teen Vogue.
Oh yeah, we're doing live teaching events across the country working with teens. Like last year when Ingrid Nilsson spoke at the Teen Vogue Summit to 500 students about MediaWise.
We are going to be showing you how you can fact check the internet.
You're probably thinking, okay, enough already, let's get to the tips. But listen, this part's important.
Learning these skills really matters because we're all targets of misinformation. What you read online affects how you view the world around you, your impressions on important issues, and how you choose to vote.
So now that we know why it's important, let's move on to the fun stuff with a game we like to call
The Florida Man Challenge.
Since you can't always tell if what you're reading is real or not, and Florida Man stories can be kind of crazy and seem fake, we decided to combine the two into this challenge.
Let's take a look at these two headlines. Naked Florida Man revealed on video sneaking into restaurant and munching on ramen, or Florida Man kicked out of funeral after telling Alexa to play Despacito. Which one is legit?
You may be thinking, I have no idea how to tell, and that's totally fine. That's the point of this video. We're going to teach you. By the end, you should be able to figure it out.
Let's start with the basics. When you come across information online, ask yourself these three questions. Who is behind the information? What is the evidence? And what do other sources say?
Our partners at Stanford wrote these questions and even made this handy poster you can print, download, and keep at your desk. The link's in the description below.
So keep these three questions in mind as we go through examples.
All right, here we go. Is this legit? Is Mars really going to be as big as the moon? Take a moment, pause the video, and follow the link in the description below. Let us know what you think. Just be sure to come back.
And I'm just going to say for your benefit that if you are interested in seeing what is below, they have short links for taking you to some resources and some questions about the video itself. So anytime they're asking us to pause, if you want to take a few seconds to see the links below, that will help you do what they're asking. For example, will Mars be as big as the moon? Here's a URL for us to think about and provide a response. But I'm just going to, for sake of time, keep us moving.
One can debunk this image with a reverse Google image search. This allows you to search the internet wherever that photo has been posted before, and it's kind of like being a detective.
A reverse Google image search can be done using your phone on the Google Chrome app. If you see an image you want to search, like this one, you just tap and hold the image, and it will prompt you to open it in Chrome. Once it's open in Chrome, you can tap and hold again and select Search Google for this image. That will return a list of relevant fact checks.
You can also use a reverse Google image search to find out where else a photo has been posted. For example, a man posted these two photos on Facebook, making claims about the October 2018 migrant caravan in Central America. However, both photos are being used out of context, and neither of which are from that migrant caravan.
A reverse Google image search of the first photo brings up a few articles dating back to 2013, back when it was first posted.
And a reverse Google image search of the second photo reveals that it was taken in April 2018, so it's not from the October 2018 migrant caravan, and it's also being used out of context.
That's a major theme with misinformation online. Photos, quotes, all kinds of info being taken out of context. So be sure to keep an eye out for stuff like that and use tools like a reverse Google image search to help you figure it out. So let's get back to that first Stanford key question. Who's behind the information? Neither of the posts come from experts or even verified accounts.
Wait, hold on. What exactly is a verified account? I know, but just tell them.
So basically, when you see a blue check mark next to someone's handle, that means the platform has verified that they are who they say they are. The big platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram usually focus on people who are likely to be impersonated, like celebrities, public figures, and brands.
You might be thinking, duh, I know what verification is, but according to Stanford, only a quarter of students understand what the blue check mark really means on social media.
In other words, if you see a blue check, you know that account is who they say they are.
Just check out this example. On the right is the real Beyonce's Instagram account, and on the left is a fan account. They look really similar, but only the Queen Bee has a blue check mark next to her name.
Now, on to our next example. Is this legit? Did former President Barack Obama really sign an executive order banning the Pledge of Allegiance? Pause the video and take a moment to look over the story. Just make sure you come back.
And the story is below. Just going to pause for a second, but click here if you want to see the link that they are asking us to quickly review about whether that story is legit or not.
No, he didn't. The story is completely made up and got nearly 2 million interactions on Facebook, and it even fooled me. It has all the things you would come to expect from a traditional news story: a headline, a byline, a photo, and a photo caption, and it even has a pretty legit logo.
But if you look closely, you'll notice the URL ends in .com.co. That's a red flag. Be wary of URLs that end in this. They're often impersonating news websites.
And URLs can tell you a lot about a website. So if you see one that looks a little different than what you're used to seeing, that should be your cue to dig a little deeper.
If you didn't notice the URL, lateral reading still works. If you search the headline, you'd find that Snopes actually debunked this story and traced it back to a man named Paul Horner, who's known for posting fake stories onto a variety of websites.
Using lateral reading, you can check off two of Stanford's key questions: who is behind the information, and what do other sources say? Okay, so this one is a little different. Which one is an ad? Can you tell the difference between these three pieces of content? Pause the video and take a closer look.
The top story is an ad, and you can tell by the words paid content. Now, this may seem obvious, but it's actually not to a lot of teens. Stanford studied this and found that more than 80% of students believe that a native advertisement identified by the word sponsored content was a real news story.
To spot native ads, look for words like promoted, advertisement, or sponsored. It may also say a message from XYZ. So on Snapchat, the word sponsored appears in the bottom left. On Twitter, you'll look for the word promoted also in the bottom left. And on Insta, the word sponsored is right below the user's handle.
It's important to know the difference between a native advertisement and a real news story because a native ad is trying to sell you something. It could be anything from a pair of Nike shoes to a political campaign ad, whereas a news story is just trying to inform you.
And native advertisements could have bias or opinion attached. Think about it this way. Native ads aren't bad. They're just trying to change how you think or feel about something in order to get you to buy it.
Telling the difference between the two can be tricky because native ads are often embedded among real news stories. That's why they're called native ads, native to the environment. Get it? So that's why it's important to look out for those keywords.
Okay, moving right along, we have one more example, and then we're going to go back to the Florida challenge. Keep watching.
Is this legit? Is Simba really going vegan? Take a moment, pause the video, and check out this story. Just be sure to come back.
Nope, not real. It's satire. Satire is content that mocks or pokes fun at news, politics, or pop culture. It may seem and look real, but it's really just a joke.
This story was posted to 8satire.com, a website clearly labeled as satire in their About Us section and in their URL. They also have a disclaimer on the bottom of the website that says all their content is fiction.
Always be sure to check the About Us page or disclaimer on the website. That will help you answer who is publishing the information. Remember, that's one of Stanford's key questions. Who's behind the info?
Speaking of satire, that's a hint. Let's get back to the Florida Man Challenge and test what you've learned.
naked Florida man revealed on video sneaking into restaurant and munching on ramen, or Florida man kicked out of funeral after telling Alexa to play Despacito. Which one is legit and which one is fake?
Take a moment to figure it out. Pause the video. We've included the links in the description below. Use everything you learned to try to suss it out. And don't get lost reading Florida man stories. Be sure to come back. I'm sorry to report that a Florida man didn't actually get kicked out of a funeral for playing Despacito.
Man, I wish that were true. Alexa, play Despacito.
So a naked Florida man really did break into a restaurant and eat ramen. You can tell a lot about the website by looking at the URL.
The ramen story was written by the Tampa Bay Times, a reputable news outlet. However, the story about Alexa and Despacito was published on 8satire.com, which, if you were listening to any of this video, was clearly made up.
Oh, that was a lot of info. So let's recap.
We've gone over several strategies for avoiding misinformation like lateral reading, aka reading and opening up multiple websites covering the same story. And we also talked about how Wikipedia can be a great launchpad for that research.
We also went over how to do a reverse Google image search, how to spot a verified account, and why it's important to check the URL of any website you're on.
We also covered native ads and how to spot them. Remember, native ads aren't bad. You just need to know the context of the stories you're reading.
And finally, satire is everywhere these days. Do a little digging to see if what you're about to share is really just a joke. And remember, all of these tips can help you answer Stanford's 3 key questions.
Who's behind the information? What is the evidence? And what do other sources say? Okay, is that everything?
That's everything.
So be sure to follow us on social media for even more tips on how to debunk misinformation. And if you're looking at a story you're not sure of, send a link our way. We'd be happy to help.
And when you use these skills, be sure to tag us at MediaWise. We'd love to hear all about it and give you a shout out. Thanks for watching, and be sure to let us know any questions you have in the comments.
Bye.
Okay, so let me pull up the presentation again. We're winding down here, and I want to see what you think about what we're doing here. So thoughts on this? Do you feel like you're ready to have a discussion with students on this topic yet? And maybe we can just talk a little bit about what we have been introduced to. Some of it might be, oh yeah, that's all refresher for me, but I realize my kids need it. Or, wow, some of this was really new for me as well. Like for me personally, I needed to do a review on how to do a reverse image search on Google last night on my laptop as opposed to my phone. And it was just a nice refresher on this is something we should be doing and practicing as a new literacy practice. So thoughts on what we've done so far?
I found this information very new to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only active on social media rarely on Facebook. I do not have Instagram or Twitter or anything like that. I think it's a waste of time. But my students might do, my future students, and I also work with parents who have all these accounts. And I think it's very important for them to understand and realize that many of the things some of the things that we find on the internet are not accurate. And they need to be very discriminated, I guess, to make sure that what they are reading is the correct news. So I think for me to get this information will help me guide my students, especially when, let's say, they are doing research, they might get information that is not completely accurate, and they will then share the information that they found with others and spread the inaccuracies of the stories. So I find this very useful.
Good. I'm glad to hear it was, so when there was some new information here for you, helpful. Good. Anything you want to add on to that, Erica, about your views?
First of all, I've heard of the Stanford curriculum, the critical online reasoning. Something that's, I don't know, I Myrna, work in like ed tech, so I'm kind of in charge of this type of stuff in my school, and I find it challenging to get teachers to focus on this in addition to other digital citizenship type skills. So anyway, the Stanford critical online reasoning has been suggested at our school to add on top of what we do from Common Sense Media. But yeah, I mean, some of this was new information about like the verified account. I did not know that. We just did a lesson a couple weeks ago in 6th grade on like spotting fake news, and not all of these tips were in there.
Hmm.
It was about like clicking on the links. Let's see what the URL actually is and seeing if you can verify it somewhere else on the internet, doing lateral reading or whatever. But the reverse image search wasn't anything that I've ever used to try to figure out whether or not something is real, which good tip.
Yeah, that was a good reminder for me. And you mentioned, Erica, 6th grade having a lesson recently on for 6th graders on kind of this general topic. And I'm wondering how many 6th graders have a sense of what the word satire means, because so much of what they're going to be finding that might be kind of squishy in terms of how credible it is might just be satire. So I was pleasantly reminded in this video that the term satire is something kids need help with. It was a nice reminder for me.
Definitely.
I think you're correct, Chris. I remember being in a class, I think it was the beginning of this year, it was a 6th grade. And towards the end of the year, they do a project about Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a student that did a presentation that said that the pyramids were discovered in the 1980s. So, I mean, he's talking and we did not interrupt, but the teacher and I, we looked at each other and I said, where did he get this? So we had to go and explain to him, not in front of everybody, but we did talk to him about rechecking and double checking his information before he will go live, to present to a class. And yeah, you're right. They do not quite understand what satire is. We need to explain that.
Yeah, well, when I've shared these resources actually with middle school kids, I think they tend to latch on. They like the video because they learn by video so often now. So, and they were actually then we did, when I last did this with kids, we kind of went through what we just went through. And then we had some practice examples beyond those in the video, and kids tried it out, and they tried out the reverse Google search or image search, which many hadn't learned how to do before. So it was a fun, engaging lesson several times that I've done this. And part of it was because this is something kids are actually immersed in. They want to know how to do this because this is what literacy looks like for them now. It's not just open your textbooks and read, it's multiple sources. And for me, my bottom line is helping kids understand that we want them to approach what they're seeing and viewing with a healthy sense of skepticism, and use the tools that you have to see if it's a credible source or not. And if you can do that, then you are in charge of the information. If you don't have the skills to do that, then you may be manipulated in ways that you're not even aware of. Any other questions or comments about what we were introduced to here today?
Thank you. Very helpful. I mean, I can definitely see myself playing this video or suggesting this video to teachers who maybe are not comfortable teaching this type of topic or don't feel confident in it. That's a great way to scaffold them, as they get more confident in teaching these skills.
Yeah, well, thanks. I'm glad some of this was helpful, and I definitely would urge you to have people practice this before you practice it if you're going to share it with teachers or students yourselves first, so you are comfortable with doing things like the reverse Google image search and then helping kids understand what these skills are and how important they really are today. So hopefully this was helpful. It will be archived and the session's available going down the road. And I just want to thank you both for coming this morning. And I think I'm going to end the session now. If anybody wants to stick around, I will do so. Otherwise, have a great
I
week.
just wanted to thank you for the video because I'm not a teacher with children yet, but I do provide classes for parents. I'm the liaison where I work. And we had a class 3 weeks ago about social media. And but now that I've seen this video and I know that sometimes different cultures, they don't take the time to quite invest research or understand if what they are watching is it really accurate. So I think based on this, I am going to do another presentation in June, and I'm going to add this information that you have given me today. So thank you very much.
Good, good. Thanks, Myrna. Glad you were here. Glad it was helpful. And
Me too.
I hope you get to practice some of these things with teachers or students or both.
Thank you, Dr. Street. Nice to meet
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.